my goal with God's help is also to deepen the manner of learning Hasidus. That means to internalize the light of Hasidus, it's not possible by just reading a mimer and translating it, understanding what it said there. We need to review and review and review until the mimer shines in our consciousness and becomes part of our perception. Tonight is the eve of the 8th of Teives, and even though it's a month that is very dominated by longer nights and darkness and winter and coldness and so on, it's Teives. So there is a great tov, a great good in this time of the year. So let's try to dive into it through Hasidus. It says that Teives is the time that the guf ne'eneh min haguf. The guf of Knesset Israel, the guf of the collective Jewish soul, is enjoying the guf of God, the body of God. And obviously, it's not physical. Okay. We are in Parshas Miketz, in our Maimar Roni Vesimchi Bas Tzion, and I don't want to rush because it's a beautiful Maimar. We can learn a lot from it, and we're still benefiting from the aura of the light of Hanukkah, and it's supposed to illuminate the whole year and even into the Geula Amitis Vashleima. So we are in Parshas Miketz in Torah Or, page Lamed Zayin, Amud Aleph, which is 73. The last 5 lines, the 5th line from the bottom that starts Baruch Hu Atzmo, the last 2 words, Vezeu Renana Beramsa, here we are holding. But before that, I would like to go quickly through the review questions. So Abigail, thank you very much for the very good questions.
Okay, so the first question is, what is the difference between Rina and Simcha? So I'll just answer, I guess.
Thank you.
I know that you were explaining that Simcha is the idea of the service of the morning, and Ranana is the idea of the service of the night. But what that really means is a service in when there's the revelation of the closeness to Hashem, and the service when there is the darkness of feeling far from Hashem. And the 2 expressions of Simcha, or song really, Simcha, are about the yearning that comes when a person either feels that they're within the palace of Hashem, like face to face,
Then
or
what is it, Renana or Simcha?
Simcha.
Right. Okay.
And then Ranana is that feeling of deep, deep yearning to be connected to Hashem when a person feels outside or distant from the direct revelation. They feel outside.
Very good.
And they want to be included in the Or Ein Sof.
Very good. In our
deep yearning.
Yes. And in our parak, we will see more about it. That the Renana is really the yearning to exit the confinement of the guf, the confinement of the soul which is jailed, in the physicality of this world and in the limitedness of the created worlds, and the yearning to merge back with the Elokus, with godliness. That's the Renana, as you say, that when we are outside, feeling outside and far from the palace. And the Simcha and that's really the Avoida Milamata Lemaila, from below up. The Simcha is the joy that comes along with feeling the presence of Or Ein Sof, of the infinite light of Hashem, of the God, divine presence, is the result of drawing Or Ein Sof down. How? Through Torah and mitzvahs. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to connect with the Creator, as Abigail presented in her questions. Okay, very good, thank you.
Who praises Hashem with Rina?
Who praises Hashem with Rina?
Malachim.
Malachim. Angels who are having some kind of understanding of what? Of the life force of Hashem that is allocated for creation. They know that they realize that it's only a ray of the divine light. They serve Hashem with Rina. Why? Because as Abigail explained, Rina is when we don't feel intimate with God, when we feel longing because we feel far. But we have appreciation for that distance. And that creates more longing. That's the Rina, the Renana. Very good, thank you. Number 3.
Is Rina an expression of closeness or distance? We pretty much explained that already.
Okay, that's distance. Number 4.
Yeah. Where is the yearning greater? Inside the palace of the king or outside?
The tshuka is still when the person does not feel close and yearns to merge with godliness.
Right.
Okay, next.
Okay, the next question is, what is the
5.
meaning of V'tzidkascha yirananu? What is the meaning of that?
This is where we began last time. This was the second chapter. V'tzidkascha yiranenu. Ivdu et Hashem besimcha bo lefanav birnana. Birnana is obviously Perek Kuf in Tehillim, Mizmor Lesoida, that we say every day after Baruch Sha'amar. So it begins with Mizmor Lesoida. There is a song of giving thanks to Hashem. Hariu LaHashem kol haaretz. Praise and cheer for the Lord, the whole universe. And then the second pasuk is Ivdu et Hashem besimcha bo'u lefanav birnana. Serve Hashem with joy and come before Him with gladness.
Wow,
whatever
beautiful.
the translation is. So that's Mizmor Lesoida. Just based on that, obviously the pasuk from the Haftarah is Roni Vesimchi Bas Tzion, but the pasuk regarding the two types of service of Hashem, the type of Simcha and the type of Renana, that is from the second pasuk of Mizmor Lesoida, the 100th chapter of Tehillim.
Wow.
Okay.
Chana?
Yes.
When it says Roni Vesimchi Bas Tzion, it sounds like Bas Tzion is doing both. Rina and Simcha.
Yes.
But we're saying Malachim and we're saying Neshamas, but it's not separated.
We will find out, as we mentioned, I think, in the first parak, that Malachim have only the avoida of Rina. That means they have only the avoida, the service of going up and longing to be subsumed in divinity, in the divine. That's the avoida of the Malachim. We have also the avoida of Simcha. What is the avoida of Simcha? Torah and mitzvahs. Not to leave the world and to merge with God, rather to bring godliness and Or Ein Sof in the world.
So we have both? We have both?
We have both. You can't reach one without the other. We can, and the ultimate is Ivdu et Hashem besimcha, but you can't reach Ivdu et Hashem besimcha. We meaning what? That through Torah and mitzvahs you bring the godliness down. But it's not an automatic experience. even if you bring godliness down through learning Torah and performing mitzvahs, it doesn't mean that you sense and experience it. And therefore you need first the avodah of renana, of longing to Hashem, of developing that part of your relationship with Hashem. Number 5, what does the expression "V'tzidkascha yeranenu"? So we know already who is the yeranenu. The yeranenu are the malachim. They are signified by Rina. So what are they praising? What are they singing a song of praise to? Tzidkascha. What's tzidkascha? Your tzedek, your righteousness?
Malchus.
My goal with God's help is also to deepen the manner of learning Hasidus.
Yeah.
And that means that to internalize the light of Hasidus, it's not possible by just reading a mimer and translating it and understanding what it said there.
Yeah.
We need to review and review and review until the mimer shines in our consciousness and becomes part of our perception. So we can't review infinitely as much as I would like to, actually. And you also see that when you review, each time you discover new treasures that you didn't find last time. That's for sure. But, together with that, we also want to cover more than one Maimar this year. So we are going to move on, but I don't want to leave behind the minimal review that we have to weekly do in order to understand in what context our discussion is, and in order to really personalize and internalize the content of the Maimar. And for that, we are spending more time. Tzidkascha is, what is it, Abigail?
Righteousness, but it's much deeper than that definition. And in the Maimar, it will say that this tzidkascha is actually malchus kedisha, which is the ability for malchus of Atzilus to descend into the worlds to create a revelation of the essence ultimately.
Right.
But what it does is it actually makes limits in the world. It creates time and space and delivers life to all of creation based on the scales of what is needed for each particular thing.
Right.
So on one hand, it's Gevura, which is the idea of limits.
Yeah,
and on the other hand...
You're running through the whole parak already, all the questions.
Oh, sorry.
So we are saying that Malachim, thank you, Abigail. Baruch Hashem, you reviewed well. Malchus, what are we saying? We are saying that the Malachim have a type of relation with Hashem that is called Renana. What's Renana? Is the songs of praise that come from feeling not close enough to Hashem. So that means that they are not intimate with Hashem Himself. So what do they perceive? They don't perceive Hashem Himself. That's why their avodah is avodah of Laila, avodah of night, of Ramsa, as the Zohar says. It's avodah of concealment. If the avodah of longing Hashem from concealment, that means that the Or that they perceive is only He'ara, it's only a radiance, it's only a limited radiance from the infinite light of Hashem itself, from our Ein Sof. And that's Malchus. Malchus, the way Abigail says, the way Malchus communicates Elokus through the created worlds is in a very compromised way. It's just the amount of divine force, of divine life force that is necessary for our limited worlds. And that's what the Malachim are praising. And that is called Tzidkascha. That limited amount of life force from the infinite life force of God that is allocated to our worlds, that is called due righteousness. Malchus, and the tzedek or malchus kadisha, says the Rebbe. Tzedek, righteousness, is the holy malchus. Okay, 6. Abigail, 6.
What is tzedek and why is it called malchus kadisha? We explained it, right?
We explained. Number 7.
Why does the phrase ma'oznai tzedek mean?
Moznei
What does
tzedek.
the phrase ma'oznai tzedek?
Scales of righteousness. So we see that Malchus is also called Moznei tzedek. What is Moznaim? Moznaim is a scale that we need to balance, right? So Malchus is called Moznei tzedek. Why? You began to say that.
Yeah, because it measures what amount, specific amount, each different creation needs. It's not just an outpouring of life force.
It
It's
weighs.
specific.
One reason is that it weighs very carefully each creation how much divine light to allocate to it, according to its, what the Rebbe calls it, Yira Shamayim, according to its sensitivity to Elokus, to ability to perceive godliness. That's one thing why Hashem shokel, Hashem weighs very carefully through Malchus. Malchus does that. It defines and that's why we say that Malchus is involved with dinim, the tzimtzumim, which means Malchus has to define and to allocate a specific limited amount of life force to each creature according to its keli, according to its vessel, and the ability to contain. That's one reason. Now let's give the answer to 7, 8, and 9.
But can you give us the second reason?
Yeah, that will be the second reason.
Okay. So how does this relate to Din Gevura? We said that.
Right.
Number 9, in what way is Malchus related to Chesed, kindness?
Okay, so then the Rebbe is teaching that one thing we understand, that Malchus is connected with Din, with Gevura, which means with the exact judgment and weighing how much to give, and it's a very exact measurement. And on the other hand, it says, "V'ksiv tzedek mal'ai minecha." The pasuk that says tzedek mal'ai minecha. Your right arm is filled with tzedek, with righteousness. Or you can even say your righteousness is filled with your right arm, with your right side, which means your righteousness is filled with chesed. So we see that Malchus has two prominent elements in it. On one hand, Malchus has dinim, because it says, Vehu yichalkelecha. Malchus has to judge every kli. It has to create the exact measurement with every kli, to each kli how much it can contain. As din, as gvuros, it has to hold back a lot. So tzimtzumim, diminishing, restricting. On the other hand, Malchus is the aspect of all the spheres that gives life. V'ata mechayes kulam. Malchus is the one that gives life to all the worlds. So that's chesed. Malchus is the source of hashpah, of our life force. So Malchus is chesed, hashpah. So we see that this is another second reason, Abigail, why Malchus is called Moznei Tzedek, while Malchus is called scales of righteousness, because there has to be an exact balance between din and chesed. Malchus has both. Has the chesed, which is the hashpah and giving life, and has the din that has to calculate how much each creation can contain, not to overwhelm it and not to starve it either. So That's another reason why Malchus is called Moznei Tzedek. It's a very righteous kind of exact kind of an objective kind of balance that needs to be created through the calculation of Malchus. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, good. Number
10.
10.
So here, how does creation receive life force from the Creator? This is actually very important.
Okay, let me challenge you with this question.
Yeah.
Abigail is asking, how does creation receive life force from Creator? What's your problem?
It's not exactly a
Creator and gives
problem.
life force to creation. What's your
It's
problem?
it's a reality check, not a problem.
What does it mean?
It means there's
wait,
infinite...
Toby wants to say. One second.
Sorry,
Can you
sorry.
unmute yourself?
Yeah. Just to answer your question, and I mean, I would think the problem is that Hashem is infinite and the world is finite. How do you reconcile those two?
Right. How do you bridge? In order to one give and the one receive, there has to be some kind of how do you call it in English?
What you said, a bridge, yeah, bridge.
A bridge, a relation, the ability to relate. Here you have something that is completely beyond any definition, any limitation, that has to give highs to something which is all about limitation. How can that happen? Yes, Toby.
Yeah, a moment ago I had this question. Malchus in the Seder Hishtalshalut becomes Keter to the next level down, correct?
Okay.
So, I mean, that's astounding, but also I'm just thinking in terms of the aspects, the contrary aspects of tzedek and chesed, right?
Yes.
So when Malchus receives from Yesod and from all of the other spirit above it, at that moment, is it all tzedek or it's a mixture of chesed and gevura? And then when it becomes keter, does it become all chesed or is it a mixture of chesed and gevura?
It's a mixture, but I think you're complicating it more than needed for the answer. Which what you said has a lot of validity, but we don't have to explain it in a complicated way. But you even gave the answer, but I don't know if you meant to give it.
What, the finite and the infinite?
No, that you answered correctly. But even when I asked what's your, what's the answer for that? The question that Toby is asking, that's the question that the Alter Rebbe is answering. And the question, and that is that's the number 10. What's the 11? Okay, fine. So that's the question is, what's the question? The question is, let's say you want somebody to explain something to B, to give something to B, let's say an explanation. It can be anything. Can be physical things too, but let's give an example of B wants A to understand something from A. But then A find out that B doesn't even know the language, doesn't even know how to speak the language. So he says, I cannot talk to you. I can't talk to you. There's no relation between us. We are not in a relation because you don't speak my language. Here, Toby says, God is infinite. We don't speak his language. How can he give us anything? How can he relate? How can he interact? How can the infinite interact with the finite?
Right. In Aroch, that's the expression, right?
And you answered, that's the Ein Aroch is the question. There's an incomparability here. Incomparable. Uncomparable, incomparable. It's disproportionate, it's incomparable. So if there's no bridge, no possibility for a bridge between the infinite and the finite. So how does it happen, asks Abigail. and the Alter Rebbe. And what is the answer?
So you answered that it was the Ratzain of HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
What Ratzon?
He wanted to be king, Malchus.
Toby answered that every Malchus becomes the Keser of the lower world. Didn't you say that?
Yeah.
What's the Keser? The Keser Malchus. The Rebbe says, Ela al yedei bchinas melucha. You are right. The infinite cannot talk to the finite, cannot give anything because they are not be'erech ze lazeh. They are be'en ha'or. They are incomparable one to the other. Ela al yedei bchinas melucha. Only through melucha, kingship, Keser, Malchus. Lefi shehu yisbarach melech alehem. Because Hashem wants to be a king, he needs to have subjects. And if he has subjects, now we have a relationship. The relationship between a king and subject. Now we can talk. Now we can do business. And this is through this desire of Hashem to be a king that hem chayim v'kayamim, that we exist and we are animated and we are alive. It's because Hashem wanted to be a king, because of Malchus.
And number 11, was there time and space prior to creation?
Right.
Obviously,
And I just want to say that by the way, regarding the aspect of tzimtzumim of Malchus, that Malchus hides the light of Hashem a lot, is what we say, Malchus ha Malchus kol olamim. And olamim means hiddenness, concealments. It's the Malchus of all concealments. It's the Malchus that creates all concealments. You get that? We translate the word Malchus ha Malchus kol olamim. We say it in Ashrei, right? That your Malchus is the Malchus of all worlds. As we said before, that for Malchus, all worlds receive their life force. But bepnimius, in a Hasidic, from a Hasidic translation, olam means concealment, hiddenness. He'elem behester. The ha'alim means to conceal. So Malchuscha, your Malchus, the Malchus of Hashem, is the Malchus of all olamim. So literally we mean the Malchus of all the worlds. It's the Malchus that creates and animates all worlds. Each one on their level, there's a Malchus that animates that world. But Bepnimius, the Hasidic explanation is also that Malchuscha, Malchus Kol Olamim, is your Malchus, is the Malchus of all concealments. And that emphasizes even more how much din, how much tzimtzumim are associated with Malchus. And that's why we say that the Malachim are only sing songs of praise of Renana of the night type of service, which they are only relating to that limited aspect of an external limited aspect of our Ein Sof that is just enough to create and animate the worlds. But actually, Or Ein Sof itself is infinitely greater. And that Or Ein Sof we do bring down through Torah and Mitzvot, as today's Perek will explain. But the question that Abigail presented is that were there time and space prior to creation?
No,
Okay,
no.
Right. The time and space are created as well. I mean, space is created and time is created as well, and they are interconnected, interlocked. As we see expressed in the Psukim, Malchuscha, Malchus Kol Olamim. Olam is also, Olam in space, also a world, space. Umemshaltecha, your ruling, your rulership, bechol dor vador, each and every generation. So it's space and time. Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Imloch, Leolam Vaed. We see that Malchus is connected with time. So time and space are created, are creations that came along with our reality. The creation of our reality. Is this satisfactory, Abigail?
Yes, but the point was to show that there really that even though the created world is fighting HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there really is there's no separate created world. That's why you can't say once there was being, and then there's the created world and the being, because it's all him anyway. Even his concealment is still his being. And that's what the created world will reveal, is that it's Ein Od Milvado, it's all him. So we can't look at the reason why.
To the happy end.
Oh, I didn't even read the end, Hannah. I'm just trying to say that's why I put that question in, because it's not.
But the Rebbe says, לא היו יכולים להיות נבראים. They couldn't be created in בעלי גבול. That our reality is in a finite beings that are subjected to time and space, unless the Malchus of Hashem, which only Malchus creates the reality of time and space. When we are realizing the Rebbe speaks about the bitul of tzva shamayim l'char mishtachavim, especially the celestial bodies and the spiritual bodies that have more sensitivity to the presence of Hashem that we in this physical world have. So we see that this longing is to Malchus, which is Malchus Kol Olamim, but as the Rebbe makes a point that it's Elav velo lemidoisav, as Abigail is saying. They need to remember that really what we are addressing is God himself. This is just a portal to get to God himself, because we don't, like when you see a person who is very intelligent, right? So you don't want to, you're not intending to start praising and developing a relationship with the power of the intellect of that person. You're saying that that person is smart, or that person is wise. And the same thing is here. Of course, if it's Midas HaMalchus or any other Midah of Hashem, it's Elav velo midoisav. It's to Hashem, to Or and Sof, Abigail says, the way he manifests through time and space, or the way he manifests through Malchus, and the way Malchus goes down to Biyah, or the way he manifests through Yesod, or the way he manifests through Chesed, or any other Midah. Now, the Rebbe concludes the second chapter by the pasuk from Ashrei, Zecher Rav Tuvcha Yabiu B'Tzidkas Chayeranenu. Now we know what Tzidkas Chayeranenu is, that the Malachim are praising. It's not only the Malachim, we too, but the Malachim are signified by that. So, Tzidkas Chayeranenu, which means we all praise Tzidkas Chayu Tzedek, which means you Malchus, the Malchus of Hashem, which is called the Zecher Rav Tuvcha. It's a Zecher, it's only a remembrance, it's a trace, a Zecher, a memory, a reminder of your Rav Tuv, of your great goodness, which is Or Ein Sof itself. So Or Ein Sof itself is infinite, but Malchus only brings down a Zecher from that Or Ein Sof, from the infinite light. So what Malchus brings down to the worlds is only a Zecher, is only a, give me a word for it, a Zecher, only a trace, only a pointer, only
a hint or remembrance.
A what remembrance?
Like a remembrance, a hint about.
A hint, a remembrance, yeah. Yeah. To Or Ein Sof. So, but obviously it leads to Or Ein Sof. If we know that our source of life is just a remembrance for the Rav Tuvcha, for the infinite Tov of Hashem, then that creates this renana, that creates this yearning. Well, I don't want just this little piece, this little tiny sliver. I want the whole thing. So now we will continue. We don't have much time, but let's continue. We are on the third chapter of this Maimar that has 8 of them. So the fifth line from the bottom, last two words, Vezeu renana beramsa. Now, after we understand what renana is and what is the song for, that it's for Tzidkascha, Yotzedek, Malchus, we're going back to the fact that Zohar says that renana is betzafra. Renana is at night. Simcha is in the day. So, what's the connection between the avodah of Rina and night and Laila? So, after we spoke at length about the nature of the avodah of Malachim that is called Rina, which is the yearning to Hashem that is awakened in the heart, in our hearts as well, when we realize how far they are from Him Yisbarach, and that the whole chayus that they and we receive is only from Tzidkascha, which means only a zecher. Then now the Zohar, we explain, now the Rebbe will explain, the Alter Rebbe, more about the fact that the Zohar calls it Renana Beramsa, that Renana is a song of night, of nighttime. Vezeu Renana Beramsa, this is what it means that Renana is at nighttime. Ramsa hi midas laila. Ramsa means the attribute of night. Hi b'chinas malchus o yitbarach. Malchus is called midas laila because Malchus has to conceal so much. Because Malchus is the Malchus of olamim, of concealments, and it has to conceal so much. So Malchus is called Midas Laila. It's the attribute, the divine attribute of night, of concealment, of hiddenness, of darkness. Malchuscha, Malchus kol olamim, milshon helem chulu. Your Malchus, the Malchus of all olamim, all of the worlds, and olamim means also helem. Your Malchus is the Malchus that conceals. Midas Laila. So it conceals Or Ein Sof, the infinite light. ועל זה רמזו בגמרא שצריך להזכיר מידס לילה ביום. In the Gemara, in Brachos Yud Aleph Beis, the Chachamim say that one has to mention Midas Laila, the attribute of nighttime, Bayom, in the daytime. Dehainu, meaning, כמו שמבואר בזוהר, as it's explained in the Zohar, leikal lachulu, that we have to blend and to include the night and the day, which means the gvura and chesed, the din and the chesed. So in the Gemara, what is the Rebbe talking about? In the Gemara, they say that in the brachos before Kriya Shema, we have to mention also Midas Laila. And therefore, before Shema, we say, Yotzer Or uvorei choshech. We mention how Hashem is the one that formulates the light, and He creates darkness. And the Zohar says, Likalala smola beimina, that there has to be the iskalelus, the blend of these two midos, the opposite midos of the right and the left. Chesed, which is represented by light, by daytime, by light, when things are lit up, or in Gvura, which is Midas Adin, but Tzimtzum, which conceals and hides the light. This is night. And the Zohar says that you have to blend the two. שעל ידי שמשיגים החושך וההלם של אור אין סוף ברוך הוא. So before Shema, before understanding the oneness of Hashem, and therefore being aroused with Va'afta, with Avas Hashem, we mention that Midas Laila and Midas Yom. Midas Yom and Midas Laila. Yotzer Or uvorech choshech. That על ידי שמשיגים החושך וההלם של אור אין סוף ברוך הוא, why we have to mention? The purpose is to be awakened with love to Hashem. Why we have to mention the Midas Halayla? Why before being awakened with love to Hashem, we have to mention the attribute of concealment, of darkness, of nighttime? Because it means that we realize how much Malchus needs to conceal over Or and Sof, over godliness, over the infinite light. Yashes choshech sisro, in Tehillim it says, that the side of Hashem is, darkness is placed on the side of Hashem. Yashes choshech sisro is from Tehillim. Darkness is placed on the side of Hashem, which means that from our perspective, He is hidden. And לכך, says the Alter Rebbe, הם משתוקקים ונחשפים אליו יתברך. Therefore, because they realize that Malchus only gives us very little, only Zecher, and a lot is covered up, it's Midas Laila, we are awakened with a tshuka, a yearning, a desire, and longing, and nichsafim to Hashem Himself. So by the inner meaning is that by mentioning the Choshech, Midas Laila, there is an increasing in Midas Yom. When a person understands how Or and Sof is in a state of concealment and hiddenness, Shakadosh Baruch Hu is hidden from Bnei Adam, hidden from people. This is awakening, ishtoikekus, a yearning and a tshuka to Hashem Himself. Ukemo shekasuv, and as the pasuk says, in Yeshayahu, pasuk perek chaf pasuk tes, Yeshayahu Hanavi says, Nafshi ivisicha balayla. Nafshi, I yearn you at night. So literally people translate it and explain this as balayla, at night time, my soul yearns for you. You can even say in the darkness, when you're not revealed to me, my soul yearns to you. But grammatically, it's not correct if this is the meaning, because nafshi ivsach oscha, not ivisicha. Nafshi ivisicha is grammatically not correct. Sheomer lakadosh baruch hu, really the meaning is that we are talking to Hashem. We're not just saying that my soul yearns for you. We are talking to Hashem and saying, Nafshi, you are my soul. You, O God, is my life, is my soul. And ivisicha balayla, and I yearn for you, for your life, for your soul, for you as my soul. I yearn for you when you are hidden, balayla. LaKadosh Baruch Hu, arei nafshi ata. You are my soul, my life. Lechach, therefore, ivisicha. I yearn for you. I have a tshuka. I desire you. Mipnei she'achayus hazeh, because this life that Or and Sof is infinite life, hu mustar bivchinas laila vehelem, is hidden in a manner of night and darkness and concealment. Ulechach, and therefore tigdal hatshuka va'akosef liyos ivisicha, and therefore there is a greater yearning and a greater desire born and a greater longing for Hashem Himself, to be close to Hashem. So because of the sense of distance and the separation that Malchus creates from Or and Sof, from godliness, from the presence of the infinite, Or and Sof itself, not just an external manifestation of Him. Because this sense of separation, there is an increasing of this tshuka, this yearning to be closer. וכנודע שלא שייך אהבה או תשוקה להסאבוס תאווה, אלא במי שחסר לנפשו הדבר שמסאווה אליו. And it's known that Ava and Tshuka, this love and yearning, does not apply. It doesn't apply in terms of desiring and feeling a longing and desire unless someone who is missing it. Something is missing, so he desires it. שחסר לנפשו, הדבר שמסעווה אליו. That the thing that he is desiring is missing, he is lacking it. וזהו עניין בואו לפניו ברננה. This is the inyan of come before him, as we say in the Psalm of giving thanks, Mizmor Lesoida, that this is the inyan of Bo Lefanav Birnana. Come before God with a song that is called Renana, and that is Mimata Lemaila. This is from the perspective of below up, when the creation looks at the Creator. Latzes minarte kaguf. What is this song? This song is the song of desiring to exit from the shield, from the limiting, jailing shield of the body. That the body jails and shields and restricts the soul. Ulevushei hanefesh, and all the levushim, the thought, speech, and action of nefesh habahamis. And we need to completely, the nefesh habahamis itself, the intellect and the seichel and the midas of nefesh habahamis we can elevate eventually. But from the levushim of nefesh habahamis, from the thought, speech, and action that are self-centered, are more animalistic, that we have to exit completely. So the song of Renana is the wish to exit from all the restrictions of the body, of the physical reality, and to really be freed from the weights of the physical opaque world that hides over godliness. And to the soul, it's the song of the soul that wants to be freed from the jail of the body and this physical reality, Ledov Kabosh Baruch, so she can cleave to God Himself. And this is Al Yedei Renana Bevchinas Ramsa Umidas Laila. This is through the song that is an expression of how the soul feels when, or the Malachim feel when we are in a reality of Ramsa, of nighttime, and Midas Laila, of Tzimtzumin and concealments. היא בחינה שמוסתר ומלובש באור אינסוף ברוך הוא בבחינס הלם והסתר. It's how Or Sof, the infinite light of Hashem, is hidden in this Midas Laila, which means in Malchus. And so the Tzimtzumim of Malchus and is in a concealed state. And that creates a yearning to go out of this physical world, out of the limitations of the body, and break through this distance. Vezeu inyan, and this is the idea of Baruch Shem Kvod Malchuso Leolam Vaed Ve'ahavta Gomer. This is the idea why between saying Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, really in the Torah it says right away Ve'ahavta Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad V'eschanan, V'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha. But in Tefillah, the Chachamim established that we say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, then we say Baruch Shem Kvod Malchuso Leolam Vaed, and then we say V'ahavta. What is that? Dehainu, שלבבו יבין איך שברוך ונמשך שם הערה מאור אין סוף ברוך הוא, ליוז כבוד מלכוסו, והערה היא לעולם ועד, למטה עד אין קץ. What is the thing of Baruch Shem כבוד מלכוסו? Is describing how the ashpa of the chayus comes from Or and Sof, from godliness, to the world through his malchus. Baruch is the Shon Hamshacha, right? We know already. Like when we make a bracha, it means that we bring godliness down. Shem is only ha'ara, as we know in Hasidus. Shem is the name. It's like the name of a person is not the person himself. It's only a representation of the person. So too, Malchus is called Shem. Baruch Shem, Kvod Malchus. So it's ha'ara be'alma. It's only ha'ara. And yet, is leolam va'ed, which means that this Malchus, that is only ha'ara from Or and Sof, it's only a zecher, only a remembrance, is leolam va'ed lemata ad en ketz, which is it's the source of life of the world, ad en sof, ad en ketz. En ketz means that you cannot count how many worlds are all together. I mean, generally there are 4 worlds, but how many worlds within each world? They're uncountable. And how many creations uncountable? En ketz. So even this limited source of life that Malchus enables to creation is still ad en sof. Shal yedei zeh. So now when person meditates that this, what we look at like infinite, unending amount of life that Malchus can provide to the worlds, unending in terms of time, Sof kol hadoros, and unending the En ketz in terms of space. Yet it's only a zecher, remembrance for Or and Sof. So when a person meditates on that, שעל ידי זה יבוא לאהבה es havaya, hu Or and Sof baruch hu mamash. When a person meditates that Malchus is just this unending energy, vitality for Malchus that provides life for all worlds, is just a trace from Or and Sof itself that arouses a love, a hafta of Or and Sof, that this desire to cleave to Or and Sof baruch hu mamash. Liyos elokecha bechol levavcha ובכל נפשך, להזדבקה ברוחה ברוחה. ואהבת את הווה אלוקיך, it means when a person is cleaving to Hashem, to God, then Havaya becomes your Elokecha, your God. Shem Havaya becomes your God, becomes part of you. It's your Elokim. Elokim means also koach, power. It's your vitality, it's your power, it's your chayus, which means simply that ואהבת את Hashem Elokecha. Elokecha means that Hashem rules over you, is your God. But really, bepnimius, it means how the divine light becomes one with the person, and it becomes Elokecha, it becomes your power, your energy, your person, your vitality. And this is called in the Zohar, Lisdabka Rucha Berucha, that the spirit of man is attached, cleaved, glued to this divine spirit. And that means that the mind of the sechel, the sechel of the person is engaged in the divine sechel, and the heart of the person is engaged in the divine midos and in loving Hashem and so on. And thought, speech, and action are a reflection of the divine thought and divine speech and divine action. To conclude and summarize chapter 2. So now we understand what the Zohar means when he says Renana Beramsa. That Renana, the song that is called Rina, singing that song is at night. This Rina is shayach to the Midas Laila Vehester, to the attribute of nighttime and concealment, which is Malchus. That when we grasp and understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself is hidden and concealed, and only a ray and a trace and a radiance from him is invested in the worlds, this creates a yearning, a rina, to Hashem himself. And this is what it means, nafshi visicha balayla, that you are my nefesh, you are my life, and I desire you because you are in a state of Laila, you are concealed from me. And that creates a big yearning and longing to cleave to you. And this is why we say Baruch Shem between Shema and Ve'ahavta. Baruch Shem Kvod Malchuso Leolam Va'ed. That this radiance from the Midas HaMalchus, Baruch Shem Kvod Malchuso, the Malchus of Hashem, this radiance, ha'ara, from Malchus of Hashem in the world, it's only take ha'ara, and we are bringing Baruch, this ha'ara down, and through this boinenus, on the fact that we are bringing only ha'ara from Or Ein Sof itself, that creates va'afta to Or Ein Sof. That a person is yearning that Havaya Mamash will be his entire koyach and chayus. And it will permeate him and become one with him. Because the Rebbe will differentiate between how much Malchus by default reveals from Or Ein Sof into the worlds, each world obviously according to its level, and that is always limited. But then, and always concealing Or Ein Sof, more or less, higher, depends if you are higher or lower in the worlds. But then through Torah and mitzvahs, Hashem can bypass this whole system of tzimtzumim. And he can bring straight from Or Ein Sof down. And that is because he wanted this relationship with us. That there should be zdapkus rucha berucha. That there should be cleaving to him and be in full relationship with him. And that's a avodah that only Yidden have and Melachim don't. And that's why Malachim don't have direct access to Or Ein Sof, and we do through Torah and mitzvahs. And that's why they benefit from our Torah and mitzvahs as well. End of the second chapter, where the Rebbe says, כמו שכתוב, אמרו צדיק כי טוב, שהטוב הוא בחינת צדיק, שהוא המקשר ומשפיע מעולם ועד עולם. Why? Because we say, זכר רב טובך in Ashrei, right? We say remembrance of Rav Tuvcha. What is Tuvcha? Your Or Ein Sof, your Rav is usually Rav Chesed means infinite. Okay, so Rav usually represents unlimited. So Rav Tuvcha is your great Tov, your great unlimited goodness. But really, Kabbalistically, Yesod is called Tov, the Sfiras HaYesod. And also it's called Tzaddik, Tzaddik Yesod Olam. So it's through Sfiras HaYesod and through the Tzaddik of every world that the attachment between the Mashpia and the Mekabel, the giver and the receiver, is created. And this, what the Rebbe says, כמו שכתוב ככל בשמיים ובארץ, ותרגומו דאחיד, as we learned last time, that when we say by Baruch David, and when David mentions all the spheros there, he doesn't say Yesod. לך השם הממלכה, and what is before that? ככל בשמיים ובארץ, לך השם הממלכה, he doesn't say Yesod. Until Hod, and then it doesn't say Yesod, ככל בשמיים ובארץ. So, Achid Bishmaya V'ara. This Yesod is the one that connects between the heaven and the earth, the higher and the lower. Is the one that connects between one world and another. And it's also called Kol, the one that connects. Perhaps we can connect it to what you said, Avigail, that what it means, Zecher Rav Tuvcha, is the Rebbe teaches us that Midas HaYesod is called Tov, is because of what is that which enables this whole Ashpah to happen. That which happens in Ashpah between a giver and a receiver, or a teacher and a student, is the care of the teacher that the student should understand. It's the care of the teacher, how much he cares about the student. So if the father is learning, he can learn out loud. How come his son doesn't understand what he's learning? Because he's not directing it to him, he's not connecting to him. So this wish of Hashem to really give himself, as Abigail is insisting to to make it this point, is really the mahus of this Midas HaYesod, not mahus, Midas HaYesod reflects that, Michla, that Midas HaYesod, which means the actually attachment between the Mashpia and the Makabel, is coming from that deep desire of Hashem to give his entire self in this relationship with us. And practically, yes, it also happens, as Mikla mentions and makes a point, that we can't skip over this, that literally it happens through the tzaddik. In terms of the divine hashpah to the world, every generation happens through the tzaddik of the generation. And the main tzaddik is called tzaddik Yesod Olam. He is the foundation of the world. Without him, the world cannot get its sustenance from divinity. And that's why the tzaddik is a foundation, a Yesod of Olam, of every world, because without him, the world cannot exist. And so too, Midas HaYesod. Midas HaYesod is the connector between all the divine attributes and Malchus that is now becoming the source of life of the world.
But does that mean that we can't do it without the tzaddik? That we have to have the kashrus and total bittul to the tzaddik?
Absolutely. The hashpah we get to tzaddik, as Perek Beis Tanya says anyhow. But you can get, one can get it מבחינת פנימיוס או מבחינת אחוריים. Those who don't believe, don't have emunas chachamim, they still need to get their chayus from a tzaddik, but they get it מבחינת אחוריים, which means, number one, it doesn't come so much from pnimius of a tzaddik, like, the tzaddik gives like over his shoulders, because people resist, they are not ready to receive from him, but he still has to give. And also the hashpah is more chitzonis, it's more external. And the more bitul and iskashrus there is, the more pnimius the hashpah is, and it's not מבחינת אחוריים. אחוריים means superficial, from the back.
And there's an even deeper level where it affects us if it's true that the love that the mashpia has for the mekabel creates, so to speak, like a willingness in the mekabel to rise from its own flame, like the menorah is lit by the kohen who expresses love, who embodies love. Then when the mashpia, when the yesod, when Hashem gives his entire self.
Exactly.
It means
exactly. That's how the second chapter concludes. And why we Rav Tuvcha? Why we say Rav Tuvcha? You're so good. What do you mean you're so good? The Rebbe says because there are myriads and myriads and myriads and millions of tzimtzumim levels of degradations. How do you call it? Gradual descent from world to world to world, from Ein Sof, just because of this love of Hashem and his Rav to and his great goodness, that he is so kind that he is willing to descend from infinity to the finite and to become one.
That's the key, to become one. So basically what we go back to is that we're really entirely one with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Even in our limited state, in our limited body, there really is the complete unity with Hashem. He is in us, we are in him. And we are the expressions of him, full expressions of him, embodied expressions of him.
Right, but it's a process. And the process begins with Renana. The process begins with feeling not close to Hashem and feeling the distance and yearning to become one with him and to cleave to him. That's the Renana.
And it ends with Simcha.
And it ends with Simcha. And next week we will learn about the Simcha.
And Simcha really means Hashem dwells in us.
Yes.
Hashem only dwells in a place of Simcha.
And the Simcha is because we realize that Hashem dwells within us. Because the Gilui of Or and Sof here, through Torah and mitzvahs. That in the Renana we want to exit this world and be merging with the infinite. In the Simcha is because we see Or and Sof here in the world, and that the Gilui of that which is hidden, that creates Simcha. The nature of Simcha is the Gilui of the pnimius that was hidden. That's the nature of, and that's why we say the pasuk in Tehillim, Yain yesamach levav enosh. That yain makes the heart of a person happy. What's the connection between yain and making a person happy? So the Chazal say that the gematria of yain is sod, is secrets, secret. It's 70. The gematria of 70 is sod, samach vav daled, and yain is also 70. So sod and yain. So what does it mean, simcha? Yain is samach leba. Nichnas yain yasa sod. When the yain comes in, the sod, the secret goes out, gets revealed. What is the secret? The pnimius. When the pnimius gets revealed, there is simcha. When Or and Sof itself, which is hidden, gets revealed, that's the experience of simcha. But we cannot. We have to get to Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha. That's the goal, says Abigail. Also the Alter Rebbe. Also Tehillim. But you cannot, David HaMelech, but you cannot get there unless you do the avodah of Renana first. As we learn next week.